Welcome to the Story in Your Head. Today our topic is fun, fun at work or maybe just fun. So let's start out with a quick definition. This is from whatever the internet provides. Fun, it says enjoyment, amusement, or lighthearted pleasure. What do you think of that, Deb? Is that your meaning of fun? Is that how you use it? Where do you start with that?
Interesting. Like I was triggered by the word lighthearted because some of the most fun things I've ever done, I don't think I'd consider them lighthearted. Like I was when I have the most fun, I was all in. Like, does that make sense?
What does all in mean? What does that mean for you? All in.
Completely engaged and focused and like learning that whole mood around learning something new, trying something new, creating something new, and then like putting my whole body and mind into it.
Do you have an example? Like a recent example, like in the last week?
Oh man, in the last week. I was going to use my favorite example of something that I worked on before. But yeah, I guess like even working on some of our content, there are times where I'm so interested in what I'm created. I'm so interested in what I'm writing that it doesn't even feel like time is passing. Like time passes very quickly. I am just so engaged and into it. And I find out that like I might start and have a little bit of writer's block or something like that. And then I start writing like, oh my gosh, that came out really fast. Like, and I created a great story and then it just flows. And maybe some people would call that flow or other things that they're in. But for me, it's like when I'm being that creative, it's just fun.
Talk to me about the time. Like when you say time stands still or time flows differently, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't notice the time. I don't notice the time that's going by because I'm so enjoying what I'm doing. Like sometimes I think about, oh, there are other things I do, maybe laundry, maybe the dishes. It's not quite as fun to do. And I notice like the time I'm spending on those things. But when I'm creating, when I'm in it, I don't even notice the time that it's taking. And I have to say I had the same experience in engineering. Like when I was creating something new, designing something new, some new technology, it is so fun. And you just, sometimes the kids might knock on the door and say, Mom, are you going to come out? Because I would be so into it, I could lose track of time.
I do hold there's some connection between time and fun, and or maybe it's time and lack of fun. And when I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, time does slow down. Like it's not fun to me, right? And I'm really triggered with the whole the definition of enjoyment, amusement. Like I think of an amusement park or something like that. And you go along and it's but the fun is not the amusement park. It's the time with your family and the challenges and where you're going to go, how you're going to stay, where you're going to be, all of the things. And yes, there's arguments, and yes, there's fights, and there's all the other stuff that goes with that. But that's not like the lighthearted pleasure, enjoyment, and amusement. It doesn't equate to me to what fun is. It just
so what is
doesn't.
it for you, Ron?
Fun is, I think it's, when you said that, it makes sense. Like it's a space where you lose track of time, right? And it's you're so into what you're doing, you're so connected to what you're doing. You're dealing with unknowns, and there's breakdowns, and you have to invent stuff, and you have to create stuff, and then you try experiments and they fail or they succeed, and then when you get to the end, you've got this whole project like thing that's done, and that's fun. Like, but it's that whole journey. It's not like when you get to the end and it's fun. It's the journey as you're going through that's fun. And like there's heartbreak, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's I say this. There's like laughter. There's sadness. There's like new experiments. There's failures. There's successes. And the part that really gets me is it never turns out like I thought it would. Like you never look back and when things were fun and you go, woof, yep, saw that coming. I knew exactly what was going to happen there, and it happened there. Right now, let's say I went to Disney or here it's World of Fun or something. It pretty much happens exactly like you think it's going to happen, right? You know, there's rides, there's this kind of stuff, there's expensive bad food, and there's all this other stuff, right? And but it's not. I mean, it's not fun. It's more like just being with the family and playing, right? But fun has that whole different aspect to it. You never know what's going to show up. You never know what's going to have to create. You never know what somebody else is going to add in. And it's got just a different space for that. So to help us work through this, like back in your, not just like just recent, but like in the last 6 years or 10 years, whatever, what was something you did that was really fun? And tell me about like when you started into it, what it looked like, as you were going through it, what it felt like, all of that space.
Yeah. Like one of the things that was really fun is like building a team to do something new. And I'll use my last company. We restarted the company, and it was a small like engineering firm which was doing really well, but the founders noticed like he wanted to grow the company. So I joined with some other people, and we kind of had to start from scratch. We didn't have a lot of tools. We didn't have a lot of money, certainly, as a startup. And it's such a place of invention. And then you get to invite the people you want to be with you to build this thing. And like for me, that's one of the most fun parts is building a team that you just love to go to work with every day, that you can think with, that you can challenge each other, that you can, just be yourself with. That to me is a lot of fun. And again, the whole creation part of it, that you're creating something new together that didn't exist for you all is pretty incredible.
What were some of like setbacks or failures or things you didn't know was going to happen?
Oh gosh.
What'd you learn?
Customers packing up and going away, like customers you depend on, finding another solution to their problem, and then you see a revenue source drying up. It's like, oh, we've got to innovate differently to find new customers. And it all of those things, like that was one challenge. Resources. I think in every company today, people talk about lack of resources, but especially in a startup, you've got people doing 5 or 6 jobs because that's kind of what they need to do to start things up. You don't have a lot of operating capital, so you learn and adapt to do a lot of different things, and that can be really fun. But they're definitely challenges to overcome.
What was something that you had to create out of nothing?
Oh, like this might be like a silly thing, but like an inventory tracking system, right? That we didn't just buy one off the shelf. We had to create some sort of system for tracking inventory. And then we had to also create some sort of system for like how I worked in a semiconductor company and how parts would come through from engineering through the supply chain to get tested at the end. We had to like create a tracking system so that we knew where everything was. And we knew what all the requests were, like how it needed to be tested. And all these things were new that didn't exist for us before. So we really got to start from scratch and create all those things fresh.
And what was something that you just thought would work out perfectly and it didn't work out so well?
Oh, man. There were so many of those things. I'll isolate one for you. So, like, trying to figure out how we're going to test things in high volume. Okay. And with a little part, a little chip, it goes into this socket, right? And at first, like, we were literally hand putting these things into a socket, testing them and taking them out by hand. Like, so you can imagine, labor intensive. And we were all taking our turns. Everybody in the company was taking their turns overnight to get these parts tested. And people told us, oh, you know what? The testers and the sockets, the way they work, they don't really work at those frequencies that you guys are working at. I'm getting too engineering nerdy here, but people told us, yeah, that isn't really how this was designed to be used, but we made it work. And not only did we make it work when we were doing the hand thing, right, but later on we made it work in volume. And people told us that wasn't what they thought could be done.
Deb, when you get done, a part of the project was done, was there ever a space where you'd sit around and talk about all the things you went through as a group or part of your group?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
We actually started a process. We had a Hansi process, right? A lessons learned process where we didn't look at mistakes as bad, right? So we would all sit around. We'd actually have a fairly formal meeting where we talk about like what went well and what didn't go so well, and we could laugh about some of the stupid mistakes that we made. Some of them we wish we hadn't learned, because maybe a couple of them we learned more than once. But there were other times where, like, there were some big successes there too, and something to really like celebrate that we did this.
And what is one thing that somebody else came up with, some big accomplishment, somebody else who's on your team, a part of that stuff, like where did they show up and make something up, create something?
Oh, there are so many examples. And we had like the head test engineer, brilliant, who could create the software that would do the testing efficiently, like just amazing. And then we had like the supply chain person who was constantly having to like rope these things through, pull these things through. Because by the way, when you're a small company, really large companies don't pay as much attention to you as they do for other really large companies. And so you have to negotiate in different ways, right? And then there's the quality person, right, who has to make sure that everything we're shipping to a customer is good. But all of these people contributed like in an amazing way as a team. And then, of course, there's the engineering team, right, that's got to design, and then they've got to pass through like what they thought of, which it's funny when you work with different departments, it doesn't always work perfect, right? You don't always communicate everything that the chip is supposed to do, and sometimes we would be surprised at some of the features that the chip had, but it was still like we learned a lot, and it was fun. It was fun. And I have to say, like, the thing about creation and having fun, it's to have that mood at work also like helps lighten the spirits of everybody.
Say more about that.
Where people want to be there. Like, they want to be there because they're going to see, I want to say, a friend. It's like you're going to see a friend at work because you're going to solve a really hard problem together.
Why does
And
that
that
matter? Why does that matter?
when I am working with people that I want to work with, I want to be there. Like I don't think of, or I'm wanting to be somewhere else, or my mind is distracted, so I'm not being able to be creative. Like when I'm working with people that I want to work with, it's back to that I'm all in. I'm all in. And then that opens up a space for me and everybody else to be creative, really without bounds. And to me, that's fun.
So let's shift to the other direction. What does not sound like fun?
Oh,
Or maybe you should say, what is not fun for you?
what's interesting, what I find with myself, and it may be similar to other people, is, you do something once, you create it once, and you're like, oh, that was fantastic. You do it a second time, you're like, oh, that was really great. And you do it a 17th time, and you're like, yeah, I kind of did that already. It didn't seem as much fun. And so what I notice in myself is when things become more of like a process, when it's not as creative, but it's more like, okay, we've got the recipe now. Let's just recreate the recipe over and over and over again. Not as much fun.
So production, like commodity type production where something's turned into something, you're just going to do it, like assembly line work or basically things that don't require you to think much.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're saying that, because I've also known a lot of people who have fun in that role.
Okay. What do you think their stories are?
I'm going back to purpose, like what the purpose is for them being there. Like as an engineer, I think of my purpose as, solving problems. Other people are coming to work because they're taking care of their family. They're taking care of concerns that may not necessarily be at work. And having that purpose creates a space of joy for them, like wherever they go. And it doesn't have to be solving the hard problem. It could be like doing production work and be really proud of, being able to like increase production or do something, but when it kind of looks like it's the same work over and over.
So what coaching or what space would you produce for somebody who's going to say, I'm trying to decide whether I want to go into where I'm like let's say a factory worker or an assembly worker or a right space, or I want to go into something that's creative in that space. Like, how do you have fun at both of those? We talked about the creative one. What would your coaching be to the one who's going like, well, you can be creative and that's where you're going to go. That's creative, great. But this other one over here, how do you help them to have fun at work?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking with you here, because there are still challenges in every job, right? There are still breakdowns that happen. There are still things that need to be repaired, things that need to be fixed. And like the importance of those positions, the importance of those roles, I think that's one of the things that I would help people create for themselves, is what is the importance of what you're doing? What is that story of why you're doing it and how it impacts you, your family, your work, your company, like tying that together. That's how you're helping me notice it.
Got it. No, thank you, Deb. We're going to switch roles, and I'll share
Yes,
one of
I would
mine.
love
And
that. So
and you
tell
can.
like what tell me about a project that you had the most fun. Anything in the last 10 years And I want to know why you had fun.
The space I'm going to discuss was probably the very first session I ever led in what is now the Macklin methodology, and I'd been using this process, but it was like embodied, like it was just I had skills, right? And it's not like you can't go up to the world's greatest baseball player and say, "So how do you hit the ball?" And he goes, "You hit the ball," right? Or you may have some story that's like, "Well, I watched the strings come in, or I count numbers, or whatever." Right, and then there's all the other stuff he does too that makes him, because you can count the ball and the strings and all that, and you still won't be able to hit like him. There's all this embodied stuff that I've been practicing, and the challenge was like how to share that with somebody in a way that somebody could actually gain something from it, which was challenging to me because I tried and it failed. And the goal was like I had 3 people who wanted to go through, and which was great. And at the same time, the people mattered to me, right? So like I wasn't just going, like it wasn't like it didn't matter. It mattered a lot. And who we were going through, they were important to me. And as I was going through running experiments and trying to figure out like how do I share the stories in a way that people can discover, because my goal was not to tell them anything, but to produce a space that they could discover something. And I figured that that's the space where I'm going, I love to discover stuff. I mean, nothing lights me up more and has more fun when you go, oh, there it is. That's the thing, right? Versus somebody telling you something, I go, school, yawn, boring. And most likely it's gone before I get out the doors. And so I created a space to go do that. And like, as doing it and putting it together, there were so many different conversations I had with people that weren't about designing it, but it was about life, and I was designing it in those conversations with them. And when I put the first one together and I went through it, and we got to the end, and it was only 4 sessions, so I called it the beginner course. And then it became like it's just the first 4 weeks of now the Macklin Method Workshop. And in the process of doing that, right, we got to the end of it, and they go, okay, that's great, but I can't do it yet. But there's something here, and I want to know what it was. And I was going like, a new challenge. And I remember reflecting on how much fun I had doing the first one. I go, this will be a great space to be in. So I started to design that, and they started to ask questions like, well, how do I share it with other people? Like, how do I get other people to get where we're going? So then there was this new challenge called, how do I help them share it with others, right? Like, and so now I'm designing the next 4 weeks and also designing how to help others lead those 4 weeks. I started to work with the people who were going through the first time with me, and we began to, like, all the experiments we were going to run. We tried stuff. Things didn't work. There's a lot of stuff that's not in there anymore. And what I noticed was, as we were going through this, like the challenge, the headaches, the frustrations, the new experiments, the excitements, the letdowns, all of that. And then at the end, when we got done, like we had something new, and it worked. And we watched people begin to learn and light up. And we also began to watch other people as they were leading it to other people. Like, so we were teaching people how to lead to other people. So there's a whole different step inside there, right? And I was like, I had so much fun doing it. Not like it was all enjoyable, right? But when I got done, I look back on it and go, that was really good. I mean, like, and I would say it's really good because they said this was really good. And and the worst part was they go, it's really good. So what's next? Like what? Like, we're not done, right? We don't know how to do this yet. Oh, come on, guys. Somewhere along we got to be done here, right? And I go like, yeah, but I understand it, but I can't do it. I need to be able to do it. And so we created what is the next 8 weeks and had enough practicing in there to where we could get to that point. And as we started to go into that, I go, I need to get somebody to join with me. So I had somebody help me design the second part. So it was all that back and forth and designing back and forth and ideas and creativity, and then running experiments. And like people who went through it, they didn't know we were running experiments, right? They just thought it was a course, and we're learning as we go, making stuff up, trying it on. But we had the fundamentals pretty solid, and it worked out really well. And when I got done, I look back at that time. I mean, some of the stuff we were driving in a car while we created it, we were in the middle of still doing all this other stuff we're doing in life. And I really had a good time. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I don't know that I would call it, let's see, what did they say here? What was the definition of fun again? Remember? Lighthearted amusement, right? I'm going like, no, it was not lighthearted. It was dead serious. Like I was really trying to help figure out how to help people to live a better life. And it wasn't lighthearted, and it wasn't amusing, right? Although we did laugh sometimes at some of the results we have. And even to this day, one of my favorite parts of the program is after somebody has completed leading a session, is to have that 5 minutes afterwards to reflect back on it, right? And you go, how'd it go? And they go, well, this didn't work, and this didn't work, and this worked, and this worked. And I go, yeah, did you have fun? I did have fun. What did you learn? They go, I learned a lot. Do you believe in yourself? I do now, right? And that's a lot of fun, but it's not like easy. And I go like, how do I make sure I'm doing that in all the aspects of my life, all the areas of my life? And I think it's about creating something that you care about. And then you keep working towards making what you care about better and better and better, more useful, more powerful, less costly. And in that challenge, it becomes fun. And I can reflect back like on the days when I was farming and hauling trash and working at different jobs. And when I could turn it into a purpose for what I was trying to accomplish, right? Like we had to take nuclear power plants apart and put them back together. Well, let's set world records. And all of a sudden that became fun, right? It was about farming, out working in the field and stuff. And then like, well, let's make the piles at the end of the day look as orderly as possible so you're ready for the next time you do it. And that became fun. Hauling trash, like getting it done in a way that you didn't have to go back and pick up anybody's trash because you missed it. But at the same time, you're trying to get done as quickly as you could so you could go do something else, and then you could look back and say, yeah, that was a good working space in the morning. It's how do you find that thing that you're going to accomplish, that purpose, that space, that you want to produce something big, and it's not easy, it's challenging because you set your standards high. To me, that's fun. And that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, you really triggered me with thinking about, I think fun, people might think it's easy, right? That it's, go back to that, the dictionary, right? It's that lighthearted amusement. But when do you find yourself having the most fun? And I heard you say the word challenged like multiple times. When you're challenged, like easy isn't that fun.
I accept easy is not that fun. Easy is not that fun. It's just easy. I don't have fun tying my shoe. I just tie my shoe. It's not hard. That's good. Deb, what showed up for you today? Anything else you'd like to share in around fun?
I mean, that was a really big revelation, thinking through like, yeah, when am I having the most fun? And it's not when I have all the answers at my fingertips, when life looks really good and smooth and easy, right? It's when I am challenged to solve whatever problem it is and to be creative, like to use my brain to be creative, and to be creative with a team of people. Not the amusement park type of fun. Like that really showed up for me today. How about for you, Ron?
Yeah, thanks, Deb. The space of when I see somebody else who makes something look easy, like they're good at it, I go, oh man, that would be fun. And I think what I'm saying is, well, they make that look easy. And the fun part would be that it's not easy, that it's worthwhile, and that they have a goal and they're in a challenge and they're having fun doing it. I think that part looks fun, but it's not easy. And I don't know that I'm too excited about things that look like it doesn't take any effort on my part to do it or anybody else's part to do it. So I think that's the thing that really showed up for me today. So thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Yep. So Deb, let's do our, do you have a book that you love to read that you would share today, and why?
I am reading a great book right now. It's a book, Clayton Christensen actually passed away a few years ago, but it's How Will You Measure Your Life? I wished it would have been available for me when I graduated from maybe high school or college, but it's a really good book about choosing a career that's fun, but also like how to take care of your family in a way that you stay with your family and don't get divorced and things like that. It's just a really, really good read. Highly recommend it.
Very cool. Thank you.
What's a book that's one of your favorites?
Leadership is an Art by Max Dupree. I read it, she seemed like when I just got out of college. And what I really loved about it was like it took, well, yeah, coming out of engineering school and all that stuff, right? Things were like fixed and permanent, and you could modify them and you could do all this kind of stuff. And when he said leadership is an art, and you look at all the little things that go into being that, and the care and the being with somebody and listening and to be in that space, I found the book just stuck with me for a long time. Could be that I read it like 6-7 times, and still do read it occasionally, because I find that there's one was like believing in yourself, and then two, finding out what other people are really good at. There was a brief story, and there was the guy, a millwright or a poet, right? And he was a millwright in the factory where he worked all the time, and then he passed away. And then he went to the guy's funeral, and they were all reading this guy's poetry. And then they were going like, wait, was he a millwright or was he a poet? And it's like, all those gifts that this person had, we never saw any of them, right? And I go like, I want to be the leader that gives everybody a chance to bring those gifts to life.
That's awesome.
So, cool. Well, thanks, Deb. Thanks for the podcast today. And well, this is, God, how do you end it here? I feel like I'm still in the middle of the conversation.
Ron.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I had fun.
I did too. Well, thanks, Deb. And goodbye, everybody.
Take care.